with Tim Gilbert and Julie Snook. This is Racing Dreams.
Well, there's 2 weeks and a few hours to go, Jules, to the Everest. Can you believe it? It's come upon us that quick.
I know. Good morning to you, Timmy. Good morning to you at home. That's right. This time in 2 weeks, we'll be live at Royal Randwick ahead of the running of the 2022 Tab Everest. And what a busy week it has been for slot holders, for trainers, for connections in relation to this race. So we're going to talk about that.
Yep.
And a whole lot more today.
Oh, absolutely. Huge day of racing in Sydney and in Melbourne. Let's have a look at what's coming up on Racing Dreams. There are 2 Golden Everest tickets to go. We do like our Willy Wonka analogy. We have one of the 2 slot holders live in the studio this morning. Which way will James Harron go?
The king of the Randwick Mile, we relive the success and the brilliance of Glenn Voss on Tab Epson Day.
And the former jockey turned trainer taking a group of racehorse owners on the ride of their lives. We sit down with Chris Muntz.
Great show coming up for you this morning. Well, as we said, in just 2 weeks, we are expecting the running. We know that this is pregnancy brain for you.
Okay, that's fine.
Don't just sit back and watch.
I've got no excuses generally. We have the Everest coming up in a couple of weeks, and we saw the extraordinary news this week after last week's Golden Rose run of Jacquinot, and bang, we saw Coolmore jump on this, and of course Mick Price and Michael Kent Jr. I was down with them a few weeks ago at their Cranbourne. I did tip it, and I didn't have any money on it. And no, I didn't.
Oh.
We said that they were the Felix and Oscar but then they said we're the Felix and Felix, and one of the Felixes is with us right now, Michael Kent Jr. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well, guys. How are you?
I'm sorry for the really shaky start there. Before we get to you, I just want to go back to last week's run and have a look at Jacquinot in the Golden Rose at Rosehill Gardens. It was incredible. We're going to pick it up to 200 metres. Let's take a look.
It's Golden Mile just in front of Zoo Tiger, a length away to In Secret. Golden Mile, Zoo Tiger, In Secret. Jacquinot storming home. In Secret up the fence. Jacquinot wide out. Jacquinot got up with a heart-stopping victory in the Golden Rose to knock off In Secret, followed by Zoo Tiger. Golden Mile in it for third. Further back to Fireburn. Whoa, Jacquinot right down the outside. Damien Lane for Mick Price and Mick Kent Jr. there with a barnstorming finish.
Well, a few weeks ago I was down there in your stables and Michael, I'd have to say that you and Mick were playing down Jacquinot. Oh no, Golden Rose, we're not thinking Everest. That changed quickly.
Boom. Yeah, it gives you chills watching that. I mean, that just shows how much it's improved. You're right. We never spoke about the Everest prior to Saturday post-race. I had Tom Magnier grab me and say, come on, let's go to the Everest. And we think it's the right thing for the horse physically. 2 weeks to the mile in the Guineas would have been a bit more difficult. So staying in Sydney, we've got 3 weeks between runs. And I mean, what a thrill. It's going to be extremely hard to beat Nature Strip. But, if the pace is on and he gets pressured early, we'll be the one storming home late.
Michael, how does it feel? Because as you just described then, you go from winning the Golden Rose to quickly being dragged aside to have these contract negotiations in relation to the world's richest race on turf. That's how quickly it can change. That's how quickly it can move. How does it feel? Have you guys had time to just sit back and think, all of a sudden, we've got an Everest runner?
Yeah, you don't get time in this game. I was back on a plane at 7 p.m. And the day after we had Thunderstruck racing at Sandown in Group 1 racing. So this beast that's our stable just keeps moving. And I suppose these moments like now, reliving that race, you have to pinch yourself at how lucky we are. We went to Sydney last year and won the Golden Eagle. And we love taking home the Sydney prize money, that's for sure.
Well, look, you've got the most valuable colt in the country now, don't you, Michael?
I wouldn't go that far.
Not far off.
Look, hopefully on the back of that, he'll find a nice home and stud, and he'll have a very enjoyable life being a stud colt. And he deserves to be. He's got a pedigree. He's, he knocked off Aft Cabin, who's the Guineas favourite. He beat a very good field there. And the thing was, the favourite ran second, the second favourite ran fourth, and they were down the inside on a day where it was very hard to make ground out wide. He came out of the pack by himself down the outside and made a long, sustained run. That was a brilliant performance in probably one of the best 3-year-old Group 1s of the year. So, it's very, very exciting, and he's on that upward spiral. So, I mean, if he could win the Everest, then he would be the most valuable colt in the land, that's for sure.
That little smile creep across your face there at the thought of that. Tom Magnier said this week that you've been telling him for quite some time that this is a special colt. When did you realise you had something special in the stables?
So it's funny. So he went to the sales, this horse, and at the time Rubik was not popular, not in vogue, and I would have thought most agents wouldn't have looked at him out of the box. The ones that did saw a very lean, narrow, immature horse, and he went through the ring and got no bids. We were lucky enough to get him and bring him in home. And I remember this time when he was just turned 2, he put in a gallop and he went awesome. And I actually called his owner and said, is there any chance I could buy a little share in this colt? And I think whenever the trainer's calling up the owner asking for a share, they always say no because they know the horse is going well. And he won that. He won on debut on Boxing Day, and looked very impressive doing that. So, whilst he's an immature horse, from early days he showed great talent. He got beautiful action. He covers the ground easily. He's a gentleman of a horse. He's never been colty. So, and he's been, I would say, unassuming this preparation because he doesn't work like an Everest winner, but when he goes to the races, he can just sustain that sprint for longer than most horses. And that's what makes him special, I suppose. Yeah, well, if the race goes a certain way, he comes right into it, doesn't he? Because, look, Nature Strip is the out-and-out favourite for this particular race, but he may go out in betting a little bit before the start of the race because there's going to be a lot of speed up front, and that would play straight into your hands. Yeah, that's the key to Nature Strip, and the team at Waller Racing have done a marvellous job getting that horse to execute his races properly. When he's a baby, if he went too hard too early, he'd obviously get very tired late and get beaten. Nowadays, the horse knows how to rate himself better. So that's the key. If he gets the first part of the race right, he's unbeatable. He's the best in the world. If he gets pressured and he tires late, well, hopefully we're there picking up the pieces. What's the ideal surface for Jacquinot? I don't think anyone wants to see the Everest run on a heavy track. So I think Jacquinot went to a new level on Saturday because the track was, it was a soft 5, but it got to almost a good 4 by his race. So he wants a good track. I know there's rain around at the moment, but let's hope it dries out in 2 weeks' time. And it should, hopefully. Yeah, so that would be ideal. Get a good 4, soft 5, soft 6 at worst, heavy track. I mean, no one wants to see that. What about at Flemington Group 1 racing today? A lot better track, of course. You haven't had as much rain, which is peculiar, Melbourne, Sydney, but he's a shocker. Can we see a knockout chance there? Unlikely, although I'd love to see it. He's having a nice... he's got barrier 17. He'll come back to last. He'll work home nicely. He probably can't win, but look for him at his next start when he goes up in distance. But yeah, it's a beautiful day here. Blue sky, sun's out, and what could be better? Flemington, good for racing. And yeah, we've got some nice horses there around the cards, which I think our best is probably race 2, Visionari. He should be hard to beat. Okay, we'll have a little bit on that. Race 2, Visionari, Flemington. All care, no responsibility. Michael Kent Jr., congratulations to you and Mighty Mick, and all the best for the Everest. Thank you very much for having me, guys. Well, we are just 2 weeks out from the big one. It's been a big week for slot holders, as we said, with a further 4 contenders announced in the past few days alone, which leaves 2 slots remaining. So let's take a look at how this field is shaping up so far. Yeah, will it be Charlie Bucket or Augustus Gloop? Coolmore has partnered with, as we've just mentioned, Mick Price and Michael Kent Jr.'s Jacquinot. The Mark Newnham trained Joyful Fortune runs for Aquis. Bjorn Baker got his first start in the $15 million race with his colt Overpass.
representing James Kennedy. And now, Baker, can you believe it, has a second runner with shades of roses selected by Bonho. Do you think that was a really low-key reaction from Björn?
Is he going to be able to contain himself? I don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. Of course, we were sitting down with him. He's had a huge spring. Those runners will join Horse of the Year Nature Strip, who lines up as favourite in the Chris Wallace slot. 2021 runner-up Masked Crusader will again run for Max Whitby and Neil Werrett. Tab have thrown their support behind the John O'Shea Lost and running for a second year.
9-year-old Eduardo will saddle up for a third time in the Everest, representing Yulong Investments. He's like a fine wine, gets better with age. Arrowfield and the Star have backed Marzu for the next 2 Everest campaigns. And 6-year-old mare Snap Dancer, trained by Kieran Meyer and David Eustace, will line up for Inglis.
That leaves just 2 slots remaining, ladies and gentlemen. Godolphin and James Harron. And as you know it, this is the show you've got to watch, isn't it? Because James Harron is next on Racing Dreams. We'll see you soon.
In the industry is here in the studio, and I'm not talking about you, Timmy.
No, of course not. Of course not. No, I'm just that humble little guy, this half-led from Guildford that just wanders in the background. Happily.
Just keeps wandering in.
But he is one of the key players. It is the show you can't afford to miss. He won the very first Everest in 2017. James Harron, a very good morning to you.
Great to be here. Good morning.
Have you made your decision yet, my dear friend?
No pressure.
Unfortunately, I'd love to give you some, breaking news. But look, we've come this far. We're going to get through this weekend. We're the last man standing, so to speak. Obviously, Godolphin have their own horses to choose from. So we're hoping for some good action this weekend, and that'll help our final decision process.
You've been involved in this race from the get-go. You know what it's like to win an Everest. But talk to us about all the wheeling and dealing behind the scenes, because as we just heard, Jacquinot was snapped up like that as soon as that race was run on Saturday. How quickly do you have to move? Is there such a thing as having a plan for an Everest?
Yeah, look, absolutely, Julie. I mean, it's a process of discussions that go on for nearly from year to year now. I think we've seen people's trends getting in earlier and earlier every year. We've seen 2-year deal structures being put in place. So we are seeing a real shift in how people are approaching it. We tend to wait a bit longer. We like to watch what our own horses are doing. But the communication with different horse owners really should be an ongoing thing throughout the year.
And Jacquinot, of course, you've got some exciting news around Jacquinot. I said to Michael Kent Jr. before, is he the most valuable colt in the country? He's not far off.
Oh yeah, look, Tim, he's obviously an incredibly exciting colt.
You saw him yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah, went out and had a look yesterday. We've actually been appointed as agent to handle the sales process for Jacquinot. As you can imagine, his owners have been bombarded since the Golden Rose win. And we'll just work with the owners in getting through that process. Of course, that's for stud duties later on. We'll see this horse do a lot more racing between now and then. He's so much blue sky, this horse. He's really untapped, and I think the sky's the limit for what he could be doing on the track in the future years.
We saw that run at the weekend that we're just watching now. As we've said over and over this morning, there are 2 slots remaining for this year's Everest. What do you make of the field currently?
Look, I think it's very high class. I mean, what was locked in quite early is, some serious animals. Nature Strip seems to be going from strength to strength, which has probably kept some horses away, and some people are probably avoiding him to some degree, and it's making it interesting because we're seeing some left of centre horses come into the fray now, late on in the scene. So I think it's going to be a great field, a great addition, and we'll just hope, like Michael Kent said earlier, let's hope it's not getting too wet and too heavy out there.
Yeah, well, a huge day today, of course. We've got 3 Group 1s, but there's also a huge focus for people that watch this show, people that love this industry, on these 2-year-old races, because in the Arrowfield Breeders and the Gimcrack, we could be seeing an Everest winner in a year or 2.
Yeah, look,
come out of one of these races.
For sure, Tim. I mean, it's amazing that the Breeders' Plate to kick off on that it's a Group 3 race in all but name. We've had horses graduate through that, such as Schnitzel, Piero, Choisir, who went and won the Royal Ascot Double. So superstar horses have kicked off their first ever races here, and we've seen no fewer than 5 stallions come out of there to produce Group 1 winners or thrown Group winners. So it's an amazingly important race, and all the eyes of the industry will be on it today.
Well, let's go overseas now. We'll broaden the lens a bit. A certain horse sale in Kentucky fetching extraordinary figures. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, look, Keenan's just concluded. Of course, we follow the markets, and the horse markets have become one big global thing now. It used to be that distance was a factor. Now it's all one big circle, and we're all watching those results. We're watching how that's proceeding to then gauge how we're travelling here in Australia come January time with yearling sales. But we saw no fewer than about 2,800 horses change hands. Over $600 million aggregate in Australian dollars, 404 million US dollars, and probably what was the greatest sale they've ever had in America. So on key figures, it certainly was, and everybody I spoke to just said it was just had to be seen to be believed.
Yeah, wow. Staying overseas, very elegant. Now, I wonder whether that rugby referee that dudded the Wallabies in Melbourne had something to do with this, but like she will race tonight in another race, but not in the Arc because she didn't get up to the right rating.
Yes, Tim, it was interesting. You have to feel for connections. The handicapper in France, Eric Le Gouen, took a stance of giving her a rating of 113. She needed about 116 to make the field. It was a very competitive year. We've got Japanese raiders coming with high ratings, and the rating they gave her wasn't enough to make it. So he defended his decision off the back of her last 6 starts, and what's probably a little stiff on owners. I mean, her first up run was a pass marker. Second up run looked like she was really progressing, and I think they were excited to see what she would unleash come Arc Day. But like you said, she will run on Saturday over 2,800 metres in a Group 1 for fillies and mares, so I expect her to be very
I'm happy to put a boycott on baguettes. I can't put a boycott on French wine, but yeah, there hasn't been a great run with us and the French recently.
I don't think I can let go of the baguettes just quietly. Not at this stage.
I'm not joining this boycott.
I am not being a part of this boycott. Well, what about these runners today? Because you've got runners today and a huge focus.
Yeah, Tim, so we're kicking off. Obviously, great to have a runner in the Breeders' Plate. We've got a horse called Mach 10, for those who have seen Top Gun. He's a real speedy customer. Won his trial leading into this, and he's sitting around $6 shot for the race today. It's going to be a bit of a heavy track, a little bit to learn about that today, but this was a soft 7 you'll see on your screens, and we're expecting a bold performance from him. We'll also work with Belinda Bateman, who's got a filly in the Gimcrack, which will be the fillies division of this race, and it's from Belinda's great mare, Satin Shoes. You'll see her second here. It's a really lovely trial, and she's come on beautifully. So again, expecting her to be competitive, and hopefully these horses can handle what this track will throw at them today.
Well, we know you're heading out to Randwick today. Do you reckon if we give you a buzz this afternoon, you might have an answer for us about this Everest?
Yeah, well, you never know, Julie.
You never know.
You don't even know.
Is there a particular race that we might be looking at?
I think all the major ones is probably and don't forget to tune into probably a few of those key sprint races in Melbourne also. We'll be having a good look at those.
Tell you what, Anthony Albanese, if he's ever looking for a member of Parliament,
he's good.
There's a guy over here who's one of the key players in horse racing who could do that. James, it's always good to see you, mate. Have a great day today. It's an exciting day. Love seeing all these young horses come through.
Thanks very much. Great to be on the show.
Thanks for coming in. Well, the Bjorn Baker trained Overpass became the 9th sprinter to be selected for this year's $15 million Everest. And joining us now is slot holder James Kennedy. Good morning to you, James.
Jules, Tim, how are you?
Good, mate. And he was pretty impressive Overpass. And I don't know how we're going to contain Bjorn Baker over the next couple of weeks. He's a very excitable Kiwi, that man. Tell us about it.
He is. I had an opportunity to meet him this week for the first time. Nothing short of impressive. I've obviously been around racing for quite some time. Obviously have my own racing stable. So, he's unique. He very much knows everything he needs to know about every single horse in his stable. He walked me through. He must have had 100 sitting in there, and he could rattle off every past performance, every race that's coming up, what he's going to expect, what the programming in the future of each horse looks like. So I was nothing short of impressed.
You've gone with Overpass for this year's running of the Everest. This is your second time being involved with the Everest. What was your thinking behind this selection?
Honestly, I felt like we were running out of options. Last year it was horrible luck. I thought I'd make, it was a bold choice to take Rothfire coming off the back of an injury last year. And then at the 11th hour, to be honest, I was just, it was a struggle. I couldn't find, there wasn't a big selection of horses at that point that I could look to select from. And to James's point, who you had on a moment ago, waiting to see what was going to perform, nothing was standing out. All the weeks leading, into the Everest and, the shorts and the Premier, nothing was really jumping out of the ground. All the horses we had earmarked or shortlisted to be a potential just weren't performing. So, we had to make a call. In the end, if you think about the beasts that are already selected, there wasn't much left. So, Overpass was, and I thought Overpass had a bit of an X factor being a 4-year-old. Horses can make big leaps from being a 3-year-old to a 4-year-old. So we managed to, I wanted to lock it away prior to the shorts, which we did a few hours prior, in fact. And then it was all the more rewarding that we were able to watch him, finish a strong second.
Yeah, I thought he was very confident when I spoke to him after the shorts, Bjorn Baker. He wasn't going to break the news with me, but he was very, very confident. He was talking in terms of, yes, I thought something had been done, but that's all part of this chess game. You and I enjoyed a beer at Randwick last year, and it was good to chat with you because you in the past, Epsom Day, today, the curtains would be pulled on the Sydney Spring and everything would head to Melbourne. But now there's some, as we've just discussed, some huge weeks ahead here.
Oh, look, absolutely. And it's interesting. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think the extent and the breadth now of spring racing, I think, is actually putting a bit more pressure on the Everest. It was an incredible. It was almost the launch pad for racing, not only in New South Wales but in Victoria. The prize money has increased across the board. I mean, you've got $10 million in the. In the Golden Rose, the Golden Eagle, pardon me. So, you mentioned Jules this morning, $1.5 million, for the Epsom. So the amount of prize money that's out there now is significant. And, I think it does put a bit of strain and pressure on the Everest now, certainly from a slot holder perspective than it once did. But overall, it's great for racing. Who's
the horse to beat in this year's Everest, James?
I mean, surely it's Nature Strip, right?
That's the way
and to be honest, that's one of the challenges. Like, are we all just racing for second? To a degree. But look, I think the favourite's got to be Nature Strip, as the market suggests. Lost and Running, I think, third year into this start, I think it was a good pick by Tab. I think he's a 6-year-old, so he's matured. I think he's going to be super competitive. And I think probably those two. And then, obviously, I think Overpass has got to be a top 3 chance. That performance in the shorts first up over 1,100, said a lot about the horse's ability. I'm not sure today is going to tell us too much because of the track. A heavy track's going to make it tough. So, the horse finishes first, great. I'll be super excited going into the next fortnight. If he finishes 6th, I'm not going to be too concerned by it.
Yeah, something as well as James Harron just mentioned, something may pop up at Flemington today because it's a huge day of racing. We've got huge weeks ahead at both Sydney and Melbourne. It's a fantastic time of year. Hopefully we'll see you at the Everest. I'm going to try and sneak down to Oaks Day, of course, your Oaks Day in a few weeks as well. So if we don't see you at the Everest, we'll see you at Oaks Day.
Look forward to it.
Thank you very much, James Kennedy. Good to chat. Well, there is another big day of Group 1 racing ahead at Royal Randwick today as the Sydney Everest Carnival continues with the running of the $1.5 million Tab Epsom.
And there is one man, he knows it, doesn't he? He knows how to win the big races. He absolutely has a stranglehold, or has had, on the famous Randwick Mile. His name is Glenn Boss, and he's going to talk us through his 4 victories in the spring feature.
They're all very special, It's hard to win an Epsom. It's a big week, and take a big deep breath and just go, now here we go, you know, strap yourself in, because this is going to be a long day, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Once you've got on your horse, you just put the mouthguard in and lock yourself in, and off you go.
Clear! All clear now, and the big field are off racing in the Epsom.
Early 2000s, to get myself on the back of what was an amazing racehorse in Shogun Lodge, and him to go out there and deliver my first Epsom. And he was such a great warrior. He became a real people's favourite. He always got back in the field, and he was always one of them horses that was flashing late, and everyone's going to love that.
Shogun Lodge roaring through on the fence.
He came at a really good period of my career in Sydney. I was really breaking in and quite strongly into the Sydney market, and got a chance for him to give me my first Epsom.
Shogun Lodge wins the Group 1.
An amazing thrill. My most special Epsom for sure.
And Glenn Boss, do you reckon he's happy?
Racing to Win had taken all before him that spring, and he was the dominant horse. He got into the Epsom with a lightweight. He was basically expected to win the race, and I remember that day. It wasn't a big field.
Boss has got the favourite in a lovely position, Racing to Win. He's starting to edge away from the inside.
He had a lovely run throughout the race, and when I topped the rise and asked him to go, he put the race beyond doubt. He beat them very easily.
Now on the outside, Racing to Win lays back the ears and stretches the neck and goes after him, and Racing to Win puts the head in front, and Racing to Win goes on to beat Desert Walk.
And that particular day, everything went to script, and he was beautiful, and he was perfect on the day, and yeah, he was a wonderful racehorse. Yeah, Captain Sonador come from Queensland, and I suggested that this horse might be a good Epsom horse. Just ended up getting such a beautiful run in the race.
Now Captain Sonador burst onto the scene in the centre.
And it was a blanket finish, and he put his nose out and won the race for me.
Captain Sonador in front, Captain Sonador!
So Captain Sonador was, a dear horse to me, because I kind of picked him out 6 months early, and I virtually persuaded the owners and the trainer to bring him down for an Epsom, which is no easy feat. So Colding was really special. I was away from the Sydney scene for a long time, and I'd come back to make Sydney my home for my work, and I'd watched his lead-up runs, and I knew that this was the right horse.
Colding a very handy third.
I just knew if I gave him the right ride, he'd be very, very hard to beat.
Dreamforce held together from Colding, going up to eyeball it now.
He did. He ended up outside the leader in a pretty sedately run race.
Inside the 250, Colding 2 lengths clear.
Kept clear and held on for a really big victory.
And Colding wins the Epsom. Another big one for G-Boss.
And obviously when you hit the line, then you know you've won. It's just an amazing experience. Like, not many people get to actually feel that adrenaline rush, and it's hard to describe, to be honest. It's a time-honoured race. You know, you've actually put your name on the board, saying that you're an Epsom winner. It's pretty special.
Well, joining us now is the man himself. He couldn't get the Swans across the line, could he, Daisy Thomas? Daisy!
Thank you, Timmy and Julie, and I take absolutely no responsibility for what the Sydney Swans dished up last week. But I tell you what, we got Group 1 racing everywhere we look today, and how good is it going to be? Again, though, we do keep our fingers crossed that that rascally little weather behaves itself up there in Sydney, and we get some good competitive racing on some decent ground. Let's start up in Sydney with the Group 1, the feature up there, one of the features today, the Epsom Handicap over the 1,600 metres. What an interesting race this should be. Ice Bath, well, it's going to go up the favourite here at PointsBet. It's got the strangest profile for an Epsom favourite. Has not won in nearly 12 months, and he's lining up for start 36, 10 more than any other runner. Will be your favourite though at $3.80. Equal favourite there with Hinge. Top Rank's been really well supported here at PointsBet. $4.40. Crosstalk had a nibble there at $7.50. Fangirl, Nimmerly, they're the best backed runners there at the double figure odds. That will be a quality, very even edition of this year's Epsom. The next race we look at is the Group 1 Metropolitan Handicap, 2,400 metre, the feature staying race of the Sydney Spring. Not a great race for punters, the favourite punters in recent years. As a fact, the last favourite to win the race was Magic Hurricane way back in 2015. So Durston will be having to buck that trend if it can win today at $3.60. Lidon de Vie there has been really well backed into $6, as has No Compromise, and Stockman. Punters thinking if the rain comes, the Stockman wet weather form will hold up. Groove Ferry there, $9, has had some support. The rest just at the double figure quote. Well, they're the two big races up in Sydney, but we'll just keep rolling straight through to the other big races because Melbourne, we will not be outdone. Headquarters today for the great running of the Bart Cummings, and this will be an absolute cracker. Interpretation is your $3.60 favourite in what is a wide open field. Desert Icons had a nibble. Vow and Declare, the old boy there, going to get his chance again. $7.50. Luna Flare, $8 and well back. Dashwan Sweet Jr., the hardest name to pronounce. I had to listen back to that 3 times to get it right. $9.50, but a good nibble there with PointsBet punters in the place betting markets. So that should be an absolute cracker of that edition. The next race we do have a look at, well, this will be an absolute beauty as well, is the race 7 on the card, and it is going to be a ripper. Gold Trip has been the best back runner here at PointsBet. $3.90, 70% of all bets early markets coming for that runner. Duis there, well, we don't really know which Duis is going to rock up. The PointsBet punters have been happy to let that one drift. $4.50 out to $5.50. Young Verta there, $8.50. Surefire, there's been a nibble there, 10s into 9s. Profondo at $10. Inspirational Girl at $11 as well. It wouldn't be Saturday without PointsBet having the PointsBet punters covered, of course. So if you are going to have a bet, download that PointsBet app today. We now are introducing racing.com form analysis. You get the expert tips, race previews, form factors, and much, much more. So if you are going to have a bet, download that PointsBet app today. And as always, Tim, Julie, please always remember to gamble responsibly.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daisy. Appreciate that. Queensland-based jockey turned trainer Chris Muntz has been frequenting Sydney more than usual in recent weeks.
Yeah, his mare Palasapan has placed in both the Shirako Stakes and Golden Pendant. She's taking her owner's strap in and I think even her trainer on their own racing dream. I sat down with Chris Muntz. Chris, you're based in Queensland, but we seem to be seeing a lot of you here in Sydney. Is there something happening?
It's nice to have a horse worthwhile bringing down, Julie. You know, it doesn't happen that often, so when we've got a mare like this who's performing well enough at this level, it's nice to come down with her.
What are people saying about the state of racing here in New South Wales? I know you spend a lot of time travelling interstate, but what's the feeling about our racing here?
Oh, well, it's just very strong, very vibrant. I mean, you can see from the crowd here today, there's a big crowd at the races and, you know, everybody's really getting into it and a lot more owners about, and obviously there's a hell of a lot more horses about.
What about the prize money?
That's through the roof, yeah. I mean, the prize money is what's kept everything rolling and kept everything improving and thriving the way that it has. And it's, you know, it'd be nice to come down and take some away with me.
What do you make of the jockey room here in Sydney at the moment?
They're a very, very strong group of riders. You know, still back to the days where you could throw your silks into the room and whoever picked it up, it wouldn't matter. They'd do a good job on your horse. So it's certainly very strong. It's very competitive, the jockey's room.
You want a Cox plate. Dare I ask, if you were still riding now, what race would you like to win?
Oh, yeah, it would be lovely to win her Everest. I tell you what, even as a trainer, I'd love to have a runner in it. So if Palasapan happens to bob up today, she's certainly available.
Well, tell us about this journey that Palasapan is taking you and the ownership group on.
When I bought her, I loved her. You know, she was untried, untested. She was a blank canvas, so to speak. And so I bought her and got her back to Brisbane and we started to train her up. And I wasn't getting a lot of positive feedback from the jockeys and the track work riders. They sort of didn't like her action and she was a bit of a fat roly-poly mare. But I gave her one jump out, spelled her and then brought her back and she just transformed into an athlete and just improved out of sight and went to the races and won her first 4 races. So she's just a mare that's, being so you think, she's just kept on improving and improving and improving.
What about this group of owners? Are you enjoying the process with them as well?
Well, it's fantastic, Julie, because a lot of them are you know, new to the racing game. They're sort of first-time owners or they're new to the racing game and they've never really experienced this sort of a day at the races. And I mean, I've been fortunate enough throughout my career to be able to experience it, but a lot of these owners haven't. And I mean, they're just enjoying the ride. They're having a lot of fun.
And that's one of the best things of horse ownership is not only for yourself going into it, it's about meeting other people. It's about the excitement and it's about being taken on the journey with the horse that you're involved in.
It's actually a dream come true. Like, I've always dreamed of coming down here with a horse, and yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like I started with Chris, like I could only just ride, and here I am taking his best horses around the country, so it's thrilling, yeah.
What is more thrilling, winning as a jockey or winning as a trainer?
Riding for me was just a lot of fun. It was never a job. It was something I loved, and I still love riding. I used to get a lot of satisfaction, enjoy riding winners all the time, and it was always a great thrill, particularly the Group 1s. But as a trainer, I think the amount of work you put into your horse and the amount of time and effort, the staff and everything that goes in on the back scenes with a horse to get him ready to go to the races, that's what makes it very thrilling and very satisfying.
Is it always the ones you least expect that take you on these amazing journeys?
It's the most exciting. They're the most exciting because certainly I never thought that Pelicipan would get to this level, but she has, and she's deserved it. And if she could win today, it'd be achievement for her and our stable.
Pelicipan moved up to join Nimmerly. Nimmerly the inside, Pelicipan the outside. Nose and nose to the wire. Nimmerly just.
What is it going to take to get a stable down here in Sydney?
Some good owners and a few more Pelicipans. I think that's all it would take. If I could get that, I'd certainly not hesitate.
Welcome back to Racing Dreams. Well, initiatives like the Cosy and the Big Dance have added so much more significance to a day at a country racetrack.
Well, I've been travelling all over the place. Went to Scone, went to Bathurst last Sunday, had a wonderful day at Bathurst and enjoyed a bit of that country hospitality at the Bathurst Cup. Take a look.
It's nicely cleared Tudor Prince, and then came Tampering, but Cognac's going to run them off their legs, and Cognac has beaten either Tampering or Tudor Prince.
It's very special, very proud. It just shows you the scope and the excitement within country racing, and Racing New South Wales really get that. And concepts like the Big Dance, Tim, they're really promoting country racing. Sure, there's a lot of city participation in it, but that raises the awareness of country racing anyway. So I'm very proud that Bathurst has had the chance to be a part of that.
And it's that connect, isn't it? It's that connect with country, regional, city that's all important.
Yes, it is. It is, and we're probably a good example of that. We're close to the metropolitan provincial area, but we've also got great participation from all of our country trainers as well. Our first race today, it was won by Bathurst trained horses.
Down to earth, but Island Rock, thirds of Photo. Local horse wins, and I can hear the cheering from the crowd, so say Ashley Grives, so plenty of local support here.
Some of the initiatives that we've seen recently with the increase in prize money, with the Big Dance, the Little Dance, the Kosciuszko's been around a little while. How much is that helping what you people do?
Oh, immensely. I was saying to someone before, 15, 20 years ago, everybody had an opinion and there was no money to do anything with the opinion. Now, if there's good initiatives, they're being driven out of the controlling authority so effectively that it gives clubs that real sense that there's hope, that there's a chance to build for the future. Now look at us here now. We've got a $110,000 feature. Our cup's just been run, and a horse that won that is going to be a part of a $2 million feature race. That just didn't happen before.
And what about the state of country racing, and Bathurst in particular?
Yeah, it's never been better. The standard of it's probably as high as it's ever been. But I was saying to someone the other day, you used to go to the races to race for $3,000, pay $200 to enter into the race that you were paying, that you were contesting for $3,000. Now you're coming to a race meeting where an average prize money today is $30,000 plus, free starts, and you get paid to start. It's never been better.
And Bathurst has such a rich history, doesn't it? The Hayes family from Bathurst.
Untitled, yeah. Gold Circle, Rising Prince, Billy Aspros, who you helped to select the ride of the day for. It's got a great tradition here. But now, with what Racing New South Wales, the platform they're laying, it's the responsibility of clubs now to build on that and to go forward.
Finally, as a man that does a lot of work for nothing, like lots of people around here do, what does this industry mean to you?
Yeah, well, when it's in your blood, it's a bit tragic. You give what you can, and every time that you're on a club committee, you're not there to be popular. You're there to do what you can do, and then hopefully leave it in a good state for the next people to. But Dad helped build this track, my grandfather as well, and some of the committee people that you've met today, they've got just as long a history and connection here. Once you're hooked, you're hooked.
Gosh, it was a nice day. It was such a nice day. And you know what? I didn't eat a pie. I ate
What?
many. I ate many.
You didn't eat one,
No.
plural. Wonderful story, lovely chat there, and it is so good to see our country racetracks thriving and looking sensational. Not only is it beautiful and green out there, but there's people back, which is just so important to these clubs. Well, resident tipster Brad Gray, it is time to bring him in for our Saturday morning. Good morning to you, Brad.
Good morning, guys. And yes, what would a race day be without a meat pie? So I'm sure they'll be getting stuck into them there out at Randwick. Today, big day's racing, isn't it? 3 Group 1s. I know there's a lot of people who count this as their favourite race day. You've got something for everyone. You've got the 2-year-olds, of course. We get a first look at the babies in the first couple of races. The Flight Stakes for the fillies, the Metrop for the stayers. The Premier Stakes as a stepping stone as we go towards the Everest in a couple of weeks' time. So a stack of interest right across the day, and I haven't even mentioned the Epsom yet, so a lot to look forward to.
Well, a lot of people get their pen or their paper or their pencil and they write down what you have to say, Brad, and they take it as gospel. Now, race for the General Hill Stakes. It's Group 2. Tell us who you like.
The Hill Stakes, so that is Montefilia's race, and she's mighty hard to beat. I know she's $1.90, but I don't see how this David Payne trained mare gets beaten. If we get even money, yours for theirs $2, I think it's worth something. She was great there first up. That was behind Animo in a race that turned into a sprint home. Now you go to second up last preparation, guys. 2,000 metres, heavy track, and she beat Very Elegant. And with all due respect to her rivals today, there's no Very Elegance in the field.
Darley Flight Stakes, Group 1, Race 6. Who are you liking?
Yeah, for the fillies, I like Fireburn. For Gary Portello, she, of course, was the star of the show as a 2-year-old. What she did in the Golden Rose just 7 days ago suggests that she's absolutely cherry ripe for the mile. Wet track holds no fears, so we'll get a good guide in terms of how this track is playing at Randwick, because she has drawn the outside barrier, so she will get back in the run. But if we see in the first couple of the races that you can make ground, I think she's a deserving favourite, guys.
Now, it's a heavy 8 today, this Premier Stakes. It's the last time we're going to see some of these Everest contenders. How do you look at this race? Does Marzu come right into it with the heavier track?
Yeah, he does. He absolutely does. The only thing I've got in the back of my mind with Marzu is that Peter and Paul Snowden, the trainers of Marzu, are generally grand final trainers, so he's still going to have a little bit up his sleeve as far as improvement to come. But as you say, Tim, the wet track holds no fears for him. He loves the wet ground. Lost and running, he is the favourite, and nobody's missed his run in the shorts. He was outstanding. Yes, he ran third, but he wasn't entitled to run third because he covered ground. He was 3 and 4 deep the entire journey. John O'Shea's made no secret that he too has just got one race in mind, that being the Everest, and he's a horse that's going to progress and progress and progress over the next couple of weeks or so and get better and better. But I think he's the one that is hardest to beat, as the market does suggest. Overpass, he booked his slot in the Tab Everest with a forward showing there in the shorts, and he's right in the mix as well. Hopefully, for our sake, Shelby 66 can maybe put his hand up to say that he's right back on track, because he's just been working his way back to full fitness, and a wet track, I guess stranger things have happened.
Well, just staying with the Everest for a moment, 2 weeks, 2 slots remaining. Is there anyone that you think could really, over this weekend, put their hand up as a contender?
I think what we're going to see from the Premier Stakes, Jules, is the second favourite is going to be decided today. So Nature Strip, he goes to the post the favourite. Absolutely no arguments there, and rightly so. Jacquino, the 3-year-old, he's going to grab some headlines going into the race. I think he probably starts on the third line of betting. But that second spot, whether it's Lost and Running, whether it's Marzu, or whether it is an Overpass, they're there to make somewhat of a statement today, I think, and say that, well, yes, Nature Strip is short and he is the best sprinter we've got at the moment, but these are horses still on the improve, and maybe today they really put their hand up and say that this race is far from over.
What happens is Apache Chase jumps out of the ground. That'd be interesting. That would be very interesting.
It certainly would be, yeah, the Queenslander. I don't mind him. He's there to do something. He makes his own luck. He can ride the speed, and as we know, James Harron, I think, still has a slot there, a vacant slot. So if Apache puts his hand up, the Queenslander, maybe he finds himself in the race.
All right, just quickly, the Tab Epsom, who are you liking?
Yeah, I like Gay Waterhouse and Adrian Bott train galloper Crosstalk here. Now, Gay is chasing her 8th victory in the race. He's got 51 kilos crosstalk. He loves wet tracks, and he's the only leader. So he's going to give you a run for your money. He's going to be out in front. Catch me if you can. And I think at the top of the straight, he's going to be the one you want to be on. Whether he can hold on that last little bit, I guess we'll find out today. But I think at around that $7, $8, Jules, he's worth a good ticket.
Oh, writing that one down.
I think the Metropolitan Stockman really comes into it now with this wet weather and the heavy 8.
Yeah, he eats mud for breakfast, doesn't he, Stockman? He absolutely loves it. So he's got a beautiful setup, 2,400 metres. I've gone with La Don de Vie, so I do think the class will rise. If you want to take a Quinella, I would back the top two, La Don de Vie and Stockman, but La Don de Vie just gets the nod. Kieran Maher and David Eustace, I don't think there's any better trainers as far as stayers go. The cherry on top is James Mcdonald in the saddle. This is a horse that also loves wet tracks. You go back to his win 2 starts ago in the Caloundra Cup in Queensland, and he just skipped through the going. So I think there's a really nice sense of timing about him.
All right, let's roll the graphic and take a look at your roughies and your best bets for this Saturday.
Yeah, best bet for me comes up in the last, so we'll have to be patient, but there is always hope when you've got the best bet in the last in terms of a get-out stake. So Bacchanalia, we saw James Cummings completely dominate last Saturday, didn't he? He had winners all over the place, and I think they're in for another good day today, the Royal Blue. So Bacchanalia in the last, he is favourite, he deserves favourite. I think he just parks in behind the speed, handles the conditions, absolutely no worries. A roughie, if I'm going to throw a roughie into the mix, maybe have something small on Conqueror. I don't think it's on the graphic there, but race 5, Dulcify. It'll be going around in the purple silks there for Chris Waller. I think it's around that $10, $11 quote. But we'll give Crosstalk a cheer in the Epsom today, guys. I'm pretty keen on him.
All righty, good on you, Brad. Looking $1 million as always, my dear friend. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys. Looking forward to it.
Well, very quickly, next Tuesday, Hugh Bowman will walk Rosehill Racecourse to help raise funds for the kids at Camp Quality. Timmy?
Of course, Huey won the Golden Eagle last year on I'm Thunderstruck, Michael Kent Jr. and Mick Price, which led to a $410,000 donation to Camp Quality as the winning owner's charity of choice.
And good news, there'll be a free barbecue. Plenty of family fun activities on offer. And it all kicks off from midday, the perfect school holidays activity. I might even find myself out there as well. As always, thank you to our great sponsors, Racing New South Wales, Arrowfield and PointsBet.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful week. Happy punting. We'll see you next week.
Bye.